Good evening, cheeseheads. Fashionably late, but feeling kind of great. I think that's the way I would define the mood in the cheese room this evening. Of course it's not. We're all bloody miserable. Nuno out, leave me out. Everyone's a twat. And speaking of twat, joining me tonight, one by one, it's hello to HG, who, not saying he's a contrarian, but when he was asked recently to choose between Blur and Oasis, his answer was Pulp.
That's right.
How are you this evening?
Yeah, Pulp were better than Blur and Oasis, easily. I'm all right. Does that make me number one twat? I'm sure there's a few of our viewers who would like to give me that, so I'll take it anyway. Yeah, tonight's I'm missing the football this, which kind of sucks. But you know, Spurs comes first, right?
I mean, I'm just happy that I think I've sorted my router issues out. I've sacked my router manager, and hopefully I won't freeze on screen and have the piss taken out of me all by you guys tonight. So I'm very pleased about that. Good evening, Shan, who since her cheese room debut, we've lost 3 games running, letting in 3 goals in each one. So quite clearly, you are to blame. You are the curse. You are not the lucky charm.
Can I just say, when I came on board, we won the Arsenal game and we won our first 3 games of the season, beating Man City in the process. So I don't think I am to blame for this. If there's one person to blame, he begins with N and ends in O. So, yeah. That's
Nigel Farage, O.
I don't know who you
Nico
mean.
Crancher.
Nemo. That's it. It's got to be that.
Definitely Nemo's fault. Yeah. Fuck's sake, Nemo.
Fuck's sake.
Always
Nemo.
going missing, ain't he?
Exactly. And someone who does go missing from time to time. He's back after a leave of absence. Not sure whether it's to do with lockdown, COVID, or what. But Dave, how does it feel to be able to say, I told you so to everybody in the cheese room? A nice hair bun.
Well, thank you very much. Lovely to be back. This is lockdown here. I haven't had a haircut since April, so it's all going very nicely. And I'm not going to do the I told you so dance because that's just not a constructive way to live your life now, is it? Yeah.
Well, it's not at all. What I do like, Evening Cheeseheads, looking forward to tonight's autopsy sponsored by the Samaritans. Well, it's actually the show's tonight brought to you by our new sponsor, Planet Clusterfuck. So online now. If we have to talk about it, let's talk about it. Goons versus Spurs. Anyone want to lead off with what the fuck happened?
Well, it was a disaster class, wasn't it? I mean, the Spurs performance from yesterday will be, it will be shown around the league. I think by every single manager, not just the Premier League, but around football, of what not to do. It was terrible. First half, you can't excuse it. So I don't really know what to say. I said a lot of it on the pod last night. Every single Spurs fan knew that we needed Højbjerg and Skip for Arsenal away. This was not a difficult choice, but we didn't see it and we got punished. I think even Shez in our little Patreon group said, kind of jokingly, I hope, but he said that, Skip will come on when we're 3-0 down. And he was right. But yeah, it was awful. We didn't take it serious. It was at his worst in the mid-90s, just one defensive midfielder who wasn't really any good at that either. And Arsenal, I think, to be fair, were probably at full strength, the type of team that Arteta wants to play, and we made them look good. I mean, that was the best they could do, but we made it far too, and there was just nothing about that you can really look at and say, yeah, we've learned something. All we can do is believe Nuno when he said after the game that it was all his fault, because the rest of us think it's all his fault. So let's hope he learns from it.
I'm just really glad we haven't got your Southern Irish doppelganger on the show tonight, because that would be hell, I think, for all of us. However, not hell for Aidan, who's just become a YouTube member of the Cheese Room channel. Thanks very much, we appreciate you. Shout outs all the way for you, my friend. And also, we've got Silent Dove in the room this evening. If you're not a channel show member, you can find the details pinned on the board. And please do like the show. There's 60 people watching already. Let's see how many likes we can get today. I'm not sure if Shan's going to drink anything particularly. You on anything tonight, Shan?
Of course I am. I need the hard stuff after what I saw yesterday.
I've got to say, your dulcet tones are wonderful through that new microphone.
You can't hear me breathing anymore, which is a good thing.
Very good thing. It's like a dirty phone call.
It's a good... Yeah, honestly, I mean, I think the worst thing about it for me, it's not even that we lost. I think we all expected to lose. We generally lose there, but it's the manner in which we lost. The starting lineup, the tactics, no desire. Honestly, Harry Kane just I think that's his worst game of the season so far for me. Really, really, really bad. It's a bit like, where do we go from here? Because every game we're looking at things and we're looking at the game and thinking that was bad, and then the next one comes and you're like, that was even worse, and then the next one comes and you're like, fucking hell, I didn't think it could get any worse, and it has. So I actually put a poll on Twitter, and if you want to vote, go to @CheeseRoomShan. Basically, do I want to go to the Villa game? Yes, it's Spurs, or no, it's Spurs. Let me know what to do, because both options at the moment are slightly appealing. So not going and saving myself the depression on my 2.5-hour drive home, or going and enjoying the first 5 minutes before the inevitable happens. So yeah.
Well, I can't argue with that at all. I've got to say, Cookie is in the comments and doing the admin for us this evening in the show. He has to beat Villa for me, he's saying, and he's not very well, poor old Cookie. So get well soon, mate. It's not COVID, so I haven't got quite as much sympathy for you as everyone did have for me. But I do hope you are feeling better soon. It was such an inept performance. It was a bit like watching Anthony Joshua in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday night. Dave, did you feel like Anthony Joshua a bit beaten up?
So basically, the game was on at 1:30 on a Monday morning, so I wasn't going to watch it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So what I did was woke up at 5:30 and avoided all apps, messages. I mean, on this WhatsApp group we had between us, there was 360 messages overnight. Okay, so I avoided all that. I put the highlights package on, which is 22 minutes. Don't know the score. The first thing they show is the lineup, and at that point, I knew we were screwed. Okay, screwed. You don't play Dele Alli and Ndombele as part of your midfield three at the Gooners away. Now, people were going on about, we've got to have a positive attacking lineup against the Gooners. They're not doing very well. The Gooners are always up for it when we play them at their place. Like, we're always up for it when they come to our place. So to have Dele Alli, who's not a midfield player, and Ndombele, who in the Patreon chat, I was saying before the game, I said what we should do is have Skip and Højbjerg as your pivot, and you have Ndombele playing up top, and Ndombele doesn't have to worry about any defending. He doesn't anyway, and just let him create, and that's how we should play. And the other thing I have to say is I just don't understand this formation of 4-3-3. With our personnel, it doesn't work.
It was never going to work, was it, HG 4-3-3? Why on earth does Nuno persist in playing a formation that doesn't fit the players he's got available? And can I just ask you, what did you make of his post-match comments? Very strange.
Yeah, okay, well, I can answer that by saying I didn't see the post-match comments because I have German Sky and they cut off very quickly. I went off to watch the NFL and the beautiful Cleveland Browns with another victory. Yeah, when it comes to 4-3-3, we can't say it doesn't work because we beat Man City with it. However, that was the Tottenham team without Kane. A narrow 4-3-3 with Kane does not help. If you've got three mobile attackers like we had that day, where Son can run the channels and Lucas and Bergwijn could all run, and happy to do so, then you've got some variety. But Kane, I mean, obviously he wants to get the ball. He likes to drop to on the left-hand side, and when he's trying to pass it to a teammate, well, there are no teammates available because they're all standing about 10 yards away from him. So if he wants to spread the play, his only option is really Tanganga, who doesn't want to attack. The whole 4-3-3 makes no sense if you put Kane and you ask the two wide players to go narrow. Kane is a focal point we know makes sense, but you've got to give him people to pass to. You've got to give him options. If everyone is standing so close, well, the defenders will be there too. So it's we don't play that intricate football. We never really have. If you want to play intricate football, you've got to have runners from deep. We don't do that either. So it's poor. I mean, it's not just poor; it's very poor. It's like I've seen Tottenham play football before poor. I've never seen football before poor. That's how bad it was. And yeah, we were easily. Yeah, I think the 4-3-3 on its day has some uses, but with the players that Spurs have, as you said, the squad we have, our players suit different ways of playing. I think we'd all like to see width that doesn't come from the fullbacks who can't attack. I don't think it's brain surgery.
Yeah. Let me just tell you what his comments were after the game. So he basically said, "It's my fault. Yeah, I'm the manager.
Well,
I picked the team. It's my fault," which is nice, because obviously Jose would never have said that. But then he went on to say the players on the pitch did not fit the system.
Yeah, so that's just it. Like you pick the system.
Alluded to the fact that he was being forced to pick people who he didn't want in the team. Is basically what he was saying in as many words. Did you see that, Shan?
I didn't really want to listen to what Nuno had to say, but I've seen the paraphrases that have been circulated on Twitter.
It's correct.
Some of what he's saying is really concerning me. I think I originally said, okay, Arsenal Villa next few games would highlight whether he's going to be under pressure or not. And I think after that, he's under pressure now. Right now, he is under a hell of a lot of pressure. If we lose to Villa, depending on how we lose, if we lose in the same manner that we've lost our last 3 games, I think it will be the first time we've lost 4 in a row since Santini.
Yeah.
That is not a stat that Nuno wants on his back, let's be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's already got the 19th, 20th combination for nearly every other stat. So I suppose, Santini one's not far behind.
This is the thing. It's massively concerning me. And I know you disagree, caller, but you do disagree. He is out of his depth. He doesn't have a clue what he's doing. And we're not seeing anything that makes us feel confident that anything's going to change anytime soon.
Shan,
we know going into Villa.
What is his depth then?
Yeah, that's
mid-table. Well, not us. We shouldn't be mid-table. This is the thing.
But
with our players, we shouldn't
not?
be. But with our players, we shouldn't be losing 3-0 at Palace. We shouldn't be getting turned over 3-0 at home. We shouldn't be putting in performances like we did against Arsenal on Sunday. Absolutely, we shouldn't be doing that. Even against Watford and Wolves, their games we should be dominating. We didn't. We didn't dominate those games. Ran away.
But why should we? Again. What gives us the right to dominate those games? Just because a big name? What is it that makes? So what then?
But this same most of his squad were in a Champions League final a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, by luck, and half of them aren't there anymore. So, but
they were still good enough to play in the Champions League.
Yeah, and that was 2019. So you can't look at the 2019 and be like, well, we were good then, so we're going to be good now. When half the team has changed, the tactics have changed, everything has changed, and it's suddenly like, well, we're going to show up to play these weaker teams and just dominate. We've not seen Spurs dominate weaker teams in a long time.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we're ambitious and we want to be getting into Europe and we want to be getting into the Champions League, Nuno isn't the right guy for that. Nuno isn't the right guy for the type of players we have at this club. We saw it with Jose last season. Why make the same mistake again? We don't have the players to play how they want to play. We're crippling ourselves. We're doing this to ourselves. The footballing decisions made at this club are honestly an absolute shambles, and they have been for a long time. Something really does need to change. I feel like this is a good time for Dave.
Hang on, I want to ask you a question. Was Jose out of his depth?
Jose's his own worst nightmare, isn't he? Let's be honest.
That's not the answer.
But it is.
I'm asking if he's out of his depth.
Jose on paper should have come to Spurs and done something. But Jose being Jose, with the ego he has, and the type of players we've got, where, let's be honest, they aren't mentally strong. Bring in a manager like Jose, it just makes it worse. One mistake, you get absolutely battered in a press conference. That doesn't work with our players. So it's 2 managerial appointments that just haven't been right for the squad that we've got. If we had the players, fair enough, but Nuno needs to look at this and think, okay, the system we're playing is not right. I need to change it up. His best formation at Wolves was 3-5-2. Why are we now playing a 4-3-3 when we've got players that would be better in a 3-5-2? It makes no sense.
I suppose my question is really about your question, because you think that I disagree with you. And I think I disagree with you around the wording more than anything. I don't think it's fair to say Nuno is out of his depth. He's a Premier League manager. He's married in the Spanish top flight. He's a very well-respected manager. Nino, even. Cheers, James. And, that tells me his depth is the Premier League. Where he sits in that Premier League table is down to his tactics and whatnot. And absolutely, his selections and tactics have been shit. So
aren't good enough for where we want to be. That's the long story short.
They're not good Shan, they're not good enough for where Wolves would want to be.
Well, exactly. So what does that say about Spurs as a club right now?
It's not a case of his depth. It's a case
Daniel Levy came out and said in a statement at the end of the season that he wants our DNA back. We want to play attacking football, and we go and hire Nuno Espirito Santo.
Well,
what on earth are they playing
at? Mr. Levy, don't you worry. I'm
Honestly,
sure Mr. Levy will get.
He played 5 attackers. What more do you want? What do people want? Look, I'm being facetious. Clearly, playing 5 attackers was stupid.
We played 5 attackers away at Arsenal. And the midfield, they were running through the centre of the pitch because there was no one there. It was absolutely appalling.
Doesn't work.
He's not daring to do anything. He's daring to make himself look like an absolute idiot. That's what he's doing. Because he isn't daring on the football pitch.
Dave, I want to come to Dave. I want to let him speak and let Shan have a gulp of gin.
Okay.
Is it gin tonight, Shan?
Yeah, I need it.
Have a few more, you'll be laughing by the end of it. Dave, I want to come to you.
Gin on a Monday night is very punchy.
Nuno said, I'm going to make you proud. Those were his words when he joined the football club. He's not making you proud right now. What does he need to do?
Okay, I think the Daily Telegraph, which has got a massive anti-Tottenham agenda over the last few months, massive. And I'm sure that the newspapers publishers would be very disappointed if I withdrew my subscription. It would make such a difference to their bottom line. Nuno, let's be clear about this. Nuno was the 7th or 8th choice manager. And why did we get him in? There was no one else available. Okay? No one. So the story, so Fonseca said in an interview that Hitchin and Levy wanted to hire him. The deal was all ready to go. Paratici came in and said, no, we should have more defensive football, and hired Nuno. So this is a Paratici choice. So by the same logic that if we're all saying, let's get rid of Nuno, because that's a bad decision, are we also saying, let's get rid of Paratici, because that was his decision? And no, of course we're not. I think the Telegraph said that Nuno's had about 55, 56 training sessions with the squad. He's had to deal with players holidaying in Bermuda, players going to South America, players not coming back from South America and ending up in Croatia. So I don't agree with this talk about getting rid of him now. I think that would be ludicrous. And let's say we did get rid of him now. It's a bit like the old ENIC argument, which we'll no doubt get onto later. Who else are we going to get in if we get rid of Nuno now? Are we going back to Ryan Mason? He's 30 now. He'd be great, wouldn't he? So if we get rid of Nuno, who are we going to get? Conte? No, he's already turned us down. There's no one else available. So I'm afraid to say it, he's got to stick with it. I didn't read from those comments that he was being forced to play these players. I read from the comments that the players that he played didn't follow the system that he had put out there. But you don't pick players who aren't going to follow the system if they're not tactically capable of doing so. So Dele Alli, he's a second striker. He's nothing else. Okay, he can't play in the midfield, and that's him. So I think we should stick with him. But he's got to play 3 at the back. And if he doesn't play 3 at the back and he doesn't play wing backs, then ultimately he will get the sack, because what's the definition of insanity? Doing the wrong thing numerous times.
I think it's doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result if you listen to Albert Einstein. But, you're clearly no Einstein, so we'll move on from that. Half-time subs HG, you like that? Half-time sub HG. He's got a little sign on it saying, hurt me. You just can't see. It must only be visible to my eyes.
I think HG's frozen.
It means you get to talk some more. Shan
He never smiles for that long.
You're right. That's a grimace. Yeah, that's a grimace. Half-time sub, Shan. It got better in the second half, didn't it? I'm not saying it was good, but it got better. Does that show that Dave's talking an element of sense, which doesn't happen very often, and that indeed we needed a double pivot in there?
It did get better once Skip came on. We looked a lot better, and Tanganga wasn't great either. Once Emerson came on, we looked better. Them two changes did change it, but I think the biggest change for me, and I'm annoyed that he left it until the 69th minute. Yeah. Brian Hill. I'm annoyed that he didn't start. Brian Hill come on and completely changed the game. We were on top in the last 20 minutes, but why leave it until the last 20 minutes? This is what's really frustrating. You can see we're not creating anything. We're not doing anything. And at that point, we're in a 4-4-2, which clearly works a lot better for us than what a 4-3-3 does. But yeah, it's still, by any stretch of the imagination, with the chances that we did have, we need to be being more clinical with those, because you're not going to win games if you're not putting your chances away. And that is our biggest problem this season. We've got 2 goals from open play. Both scored by Sonny. Sonny has scored 3 of our 4 goals this season. 4 goals in 6 games for Tottenham Hotspur is not good enough.
No,
absolutely. And we've conceded as many goals as we've got points this season. We're all laughing at Arsenal 3 games ago. Now we're in the exact same position.
We're in a worse position. I think we've got worse goal difference, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Look,
same goal difference.
Same goal difference. Okay. Well, look, I don't think we can have the honour of laughing at Arsenal right now with where we are in the league table. HG, I'm glad to see you're back with us. You got frozen on a smile, so Shan quite rightly picked up that something was wrong because you never smile like that. Tommy Ndebele didn't cover himself in glory particularly, I didn't think, Sunday. Do you agree? And what's the solution to get the best out of him? Was he the one that, well, you didn't see the comments, but the way I read it, he's being told you've got to get something out of Ndebele, which wouldn't surprise me if you've seen.
That makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. To say that, like, who's telling him to do this? Really? You think Daniel Levy took Nuno aside and said, "When I was at school"?
I think he did.
No chance. Look, nobody played well yesterday. Nobody. Right? We can't sit here and say, "Oh, well, Skip came on and did great." Skip had fuck all to do. Let's be honest. Arsenal were just sitting back. Skip wasn't challenged. Skip was just passing it sideways to Højbjerg for most of the half.
He put a couple of good challenges in, to be fair. He
put a double challenge in at one point.
He showed more fight in that second half than anyone did in the whole 90 minutes.
Dominated possession in the second half because Arsenal gave it. They were 3-0 up. It was attack against defence. It was a pointless exercise. So Ndombele, he didn't play well. We didn't get the ball to him. We didn't have the ball. But that's the same with anyone. Like Højbjerg's, pressing highest up the pitch when he's the defensive midfielder makes no sense. Playing Lucas and Son really close to Kane makes no sense. There was so much of it that made no sense yesterday that I don't even like talking about Ndombele. Just makes it seem as if we're trying to make him the scapegoat. Same with Dele. Like neither one of them, as Dave said, neither one of them suited that system. So it's just kind of what do you expect him to do? Like keep the ball by himself? Arsenal were really nothing special, but what they had was players playing in correct positions who knew their job. We didn't have it. We didn't have any of those things. I saw it.
The goals were pretty just basic, weren't they? Arsenal didn't do anything spectacular, but they had a system and they had a midfield. And when you look back and watch the way we played, it was so tactically bad. It's inconceivable that it was nothing other than the players sticking 2 fingers up at Nuno, surely.
It's got nothing to do with the players. That's the point. It's all on Nuno. Like, what do you expect the players to do?
Well, I expect them to sit in bloody position, quite frankly.
No, but they were playing their natural game. Like, are we asking Kane to be centre half? Are we asking Tanganga to play right wing? No. So why are we?
The one moment Kane decided to play centre half, he managed to gift them a goal, didn't he?
It's a bit unfair. I don't know if you're trying to scapegoat Spurs players. Yesterday, no one came out with any credit whatsoever. Not even Arsenal. They shouldn't have got any credit for what they did. They were average, but every chance they had in the first 20 minutes went in. Right, I think, and Thomas had the one shot that Hugo did well to save. Outside of that, they were just they had players in positions. That was it. They kept the ball well. Yeah, Xhaka had all right game. Odegaard didn't do much, but kept the ball ticking over. Spurs were just woeful, and the reason they were woeful was because how we set up, nothing else. I just think that Ndombele, he had a couple of good passes. He had the ball decently, but what do you expect him to do when all of his passing lanes are directly in ahead of him? No one was out wide. Nobody. Reguilon was trying to make runs from left back, but of course, if he did that, then of course Saka just waited because he knew the ball was going to come his direction. It was maddening. I had a season ticket when Ozzy was in charge. I got used to watching Spurs try and play this attacking football. We all at the time thought, well, we go and beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-3. Brilliant. We can do this every week. No, we couldn't. We got found out very easily. Yesterday of all games, if you were going to try and play that way at home against the worst team in the league, you'd probably get found out. The fact that it was Arsenal away makes it even worse. It's just naive.
I mean, the players have got to take an awful lot of responsibility as well. It's not just
for what? For
not turning up. HG. They did
what do you want them to do? You want Ndombele to suddenly turn into prime Roy Keane? It's not going to happen. So what do you want then?
If he's playing centre mid, I expect him to stay into some sort of central midfield position, not drift off into a number 10 role.
But Ndombele was never the number 10.
Well,
Ndombele was never. Dele Alli weirdly. Dele Alli would weirdly. Caller. Did you watch the game? Because it doesn't sound like you did.
I did, but I was slightly tired. I don't think you watched the game because if you did watch it, you would see that the midfield for the first goal was non-existent.
Yes.
Non-existent. There wasn't a play with it because they were all up the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, as I was saying, because that's what they're good at. If you want someone, you wouldn't ask Harry Winks to be the number 10. So why would you ask Ndombele to sit deep?
Don't bring him
it doesn't work.
This conversation. It's unfair to emotionally flood me.
No, I find it strange. If you put someone, as a manager, I'm sure you know this, right? If you put someone in a place where, frankly, they're going to fail, we know they're going to fail, you can't sit at the end of it and be like, oh, you were shit, you failed.
You do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, Caller, at all.
Anything to make Caller look good. Maybe that was Nuno's plan. I don't know, but it was horrific. The players, that none of them can cover themselves in glory, but it was down to Nuno. If you put people in the right position, you give them a chance to succeed. If you don't, it is on you that they fail. You can't sit there and be like, well, you should have been able to do everything I asked you to do. That's why you buy players in particular positions. You buy them because they're good at one thing. Very few footballers can do anything at any time, especially ones who play for Spurs.
Is it not fair to say, though, Dave, you're the calm voice of reason? So nobody ever.
We really have lost it.
Is it fair to say? Is it fair to say that there was a lack of passion on that pitch, and that the players have got to take some of the responsibility?
Look, as I said, I only watched the 22 minutes highlights, and I was watching it. It was like a Formula One through the midfield. It was like that, right? And I'm like, wow, this could be 6 or 7-0. I'm really worried here. My Monday is going to be a shocker. The fact of the matter is that he picked the wrong team, wrong system, and that became clear very early on. Should the players take responsibility? Yeah, they should. But unfortunately, we've got players who in that dressing room now who have been there for too long at the club, who we can't get rid of, and that's where we are. I mean, everyone was going on about how I said Dyer and Sanchez the first 3 games is like we signed 2 new central defenders. But the fact of the matter was they had Højbjerg and Skip sitting in front of them. They had protection. As soon as that went away, we're starting to see what they're really like as defenders. Not very good. Okay. So, there's this whole narrative about Mourinho, about how he was awful and he destroyed everyone's confidence and blah, blah, blah. And he did saying, but I don't.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Ain't you controversial today? I'm going to say this. He is very controversial today.
But that's the narrative that we wheel out every time, and the players never take responsibility. You have to have responsibility and accountability. So on the one hand, he played a shocking system that didn't suit how he set up and played the wrong personnel. But on the other hand, it's so too easy for football players these days just to say, "Oh, it's the manager," because they know it'll be gone in 6 to 9 months.
But they haven't said that, have they? We've said that, Dave, but they haven't.
I'm happy.
Yeah, but they're thinking it.
I'm happy.
They're thinking.
I'd stand by my statement. I think the players need to fight for the shirt. I don't think
even if they're playing out of position, which clearly they were
Absolutely.
yesterday, show a little bit of desire,
It's
put a foot
North
in.
London
Did we even get a yellow
derby.
card yesterday?
Yeah, I think Brian got one, didn't he? I think he always does. No, I don't.
Skip got one.
Our one player that got a yellow
Skip.
card was on the pitch for 21 minutes. That's not acceptable.
Lamella
I want to
would
see
have
more
had
yellows
two.
in the North London derby. 2-foot Xhaka. Give us something. Give us
You know
a
what?
little bit of desire. They
All
gave
I'm
us
asking for.
absolutely nothing.
All
This
I'm
is-
asking for.
I must
Fight
say
for
in
the
our WhatsApp group, I did say we needed Lamella yesterday. At
Yeah.
least he would have given us a little bit of
no.
desire.
No.
And
Look,
tried to make
honestly,
something happen.
you and Caller, you sound like proper football people. I want some passion. Fuck everything else. Who cares about quality? Just run around a bit.
Yeah, we need
It's
to get Harry
nonsense.
Redknapp back.
You need a combination of both, HG. That's the truth. You need tactical nous. You need the
Which
right
we didn't
people
have.
you need right people doing the right job, and
Yep.
you need players who are going to fight for the shirt, especially in a London derby. It's not like we're playing Stoke City away on a Wednesday night in the rain, is it? We're playing fucking Arsenal. It should be the most important game of the season. The minimum I expect as a Tottenham supporter when I'm paying 1,400 quid for a season ticket that I never sit in is to see players run around and try. And I didn't see any of that. They should be ashamed of themselves, quite frankly. And it's easy to throw the manager on the bus. That's my view. I hear yours as well. Let us know what you think in the comments. Lots of you are. Please do smash the like button. We've got 30 likes from 134 people watching. And if you want to see me and HG go head to head, Anthony Joshua and Usyk, smash the like button and I'll smash him. Right, let's move on. We're going to take some comments. There's so many to get through. Shan, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to ask another question and you pick up some good comments for in a minute. Harry Kane, HG, has he given up?
No. No, he hasn't given up.
Why is he so shit?
Well, the whole team is. Like, it's the idea that suddenly everyone should be playing better because it makes no sense. Like, nobody is able to play well if they're not in a system that suits them. We've seen that. We've seen that over the years. The whole kind of drop since 2016-17 has happened because we've tried to do something different that didn't suit the players. Yesterday was no different in that respect. So, look, if you want Kane to be your focal point, great. But you've got to put players, let's say, far enough around him so that you can... I don't even know how to phrase it. You need spacing. You need players out wide. Like when it worked, when Kane was at his best, which let's face it was last season, he was able to drop back, and then you'd have wingers coming in from the wide and making runs for him, whether it was Bergwijn, Son, whoever. That worked. That was Kane at his best. He scored goals and he assisted. What we did yesterday, and what we've done basically since Kane came back into the team, is not none of those things. Kane is just standing there. Son and Lucas are right by him. I mean, I don't want to say the same thing again, but that's a massive problem. Like, if you give Kane service, he will score. That has not changed as far as I'm concerned. But we've not given him any service. I think Paul Muir, Cheese Room's, own Paul Muir, came out and said that of all the players that have started every Premier League game, the only midfielder who hasn't created a chance in 6 games is Dele Alli. So, like, where is Kane getting this service from? He's not. He's not. Like, Son at his best gets service from Kane. So where is Kane getting this service from? It's very easy to blame Kane because of everything that's happened, but I can't blame Kane for things right now. I blame the whole thing is gone, not just Kane.
Firstly, Elliot Walsh, thanks for signing up as a member. We appreciate you. Do drop us some comments and we'll get to them. Is this the one you've picked out for us?
This is the first one. Managing in any industry is 50% respect and 50% fear.
I mean, that is an old school beyond management. I'm going to say that.
And I don't think he has it with this group. What I have said on some other thingamabobs is that's the level I'm at right now. What I have said is, well, if we know that Nuno was 7th choice, then the players will know that Nuno was 7th choice. And are they going to respect someone that they know has been brought in to fill a gap?
I don't think. Well, I think that's a bit harsh, to be honest. I don't think players are not going to try because of that. I think players will not try.
That's because the caller was like 6th choice for his job, and everyone in his supermarket knows it.
Oh, touche, HQ. How to be a teacher and to tell others how to do it without having to do it yourself.
Brilliant.
Listen, I don't agree with the statement, first of all. So, Keith, respectfully, I beg to differ. But there is certainly something in about the players being respectful of the manager and trying to execute his instruction. But I think that's about the manager and how clear he is, in my view. Dave, what's yours?
Yeah, I don't know. Was it Keith who said it? Management is 50% respect, 50% fear in any industry. Does he work in a Hungarian gulag or something? That just doesn't.
Take that down. Shan is right. I mean,
I see that Shan never Shan never puts up Dave is right, HG is right, Caller is right, so Shan is right. Funny that. What do I think? I mean, Nuno is. I am loving these comments that the club's too big for him. Sorry, we are what exactly at the moment? The way I see us at the moment, I kind of look at us like we're almost like at a slightly pre-Martin Yole level, aren't we? The best thing that I said at the start of summer, I reckon we'll get 7th and the Gooners will finish above us. And I was shouted down on this very media platform for saying that. And that's where we are at the moment. I think we are, if we get 7th in Europa, I think that would be a good season. Harry Kane, people are scapegoating him. Good.
Stop
yeah,
it.
interesting balance that was, yeah.
Very good. Nuno's out of his depth. Well, what exactly are we at the moment as a football club? And my view is, if we get Europa and a decent cup run, and at this moment in time, that constitutes a good season. There's no way we're getting top 4.
Dave, is the problem not that ENIC have built the club so well to such a high level and standard that people's expectations have been raised so much in the last 10 years that now they see us, as our own supporters see us as a super club?
Why did you mention ENIC, honestly?
Because, well, I could go into that, but I'd rather you elaborate.
Why? Okay, so basically, it's a generational thing, isn't it? Because in the last 10 years, we've qualified for the Champions League 4 years running, and we qualified 2010. So a certain generational fan thinks that we will qualify for the Champions League every year. That is not happening. Okay. From a generational thing of people who started going to see the club in the 90s under Alan Sugar and used to seeing absolute dross, their mindset would be that ENIC are the greatest thing ever because we've got Champions League finishes and we've that level's gone up. For someone, an old person like me who's wearing his 1984 UEFA Cup final shirt this morning, I grew up under age of Hoddle, Waddle and all the rest of it, where a really good player became available, like Chris Waddle, Gary Lineker. We went out and bought them, and that was the end of it. And we played great football and we won trophies. So it's a generational thing. And where I think we're at with ENIC at the moment is that I think that the way that social media is these days and has been over the last 10 to 15 years is that you're either for something or against something, and it's very divisive, and it's very down. You're either that or that, and that's where I think we are with the ENIC debate at the moment. And I'm not going there.
Yeah, can I just say, I think that everyone talks about this, the top 6, the big revenue 6, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
Like Leicester have come into that not through revenue, but through being really well run. West Ham in the last 18 months have done it through being really well run. And the reason why Spurs and Arsenal have dropped out of it is because they've been terribly run. Arsenal were terrible. They were terribly run for a good 4 or 5 seasons. I think they've started to turn it around a little bit recently. Spurs are trying to do the same. It won't happen in 6 games. I don't know what people are expecting. I don't get me wrong. Nuno was awful yesterday. No one expected that. I would expect better than that. But to think that we should be somehow competing with those teams that have been really well run. Liverpool, Chelsea, they are well run. Man City doesn't matter so much because they'll just buy whoever they want. But even United, to be fair, have bought players that they've needed. So now they have on their day a pretty good 11 that can beat anyone. Spurs haven't done that. Arsenal haven't done that. And so that's why they've been caught up and passed by some clubs. The way we get back to being where we want to be is by doing those things better, by recruiting better, by being smarter. We've made terrible decisions and we're seeing the fruit of it. And these decisions have happened. I mean, we talked earlier in our little WhatsApp group. Like, when was the last really good signing that we had? Probably Wanyama, 2016. And we only had him for one season. But since then, nothing has really panned out. Sanchez, Lucas, Aurier, Sissoko, they were all signed, but none of them really improved us. They were just kind of there, part of what we had. And now we have a lower bar. It should be easier to improve the team. But that's what we need to be doing, buying players that actually work, that actually do what we want them to do, not changing formations, not buying Doherty for a season and now we can't even get on the subs bench. Those are the types of moves that bad clubs make, and they stay bad because of it. All those players that Arsenal spent fortunes on, like Mustafi, waste of money. 5 years down the drain, 35 million plus wages down the drain, and they couldn't get rid of him. Do you recognise these issues? We can't get rid of those players. That's where we are. It will take time.
This one is interesting from our new member Aidan. Thank you for your comment. There's no footballing ambition from the owners, and that is feeding down. Poch massively overachieved with what he had, and we all now have high expectations, whereas ENIC don't.
Who do you want to answer that, Shan?
Dave. Stand on the fence, Dave, and tell us how you really feel.
Oh man, honestly. Okay. ENIC. Okay, ENIC. There's been two managers who I think have gotten us to nearly we've had two managers who've been appointed by ENIC that have taken up to us to a next level, where at that point in time we needed investment to take us to that level. And they are Harry Redknapp, who was brought in to save us from relegation. And I was just thinking about this the other day. When he joined the season where we had 2 points after 8 games. And it was the very next season we qualified for the Champions League. How did he manage that? Fantastic. It was, wasn't it? It was one season to the next. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
I mean,
that was born out of the fact that he actually had a very good squad. It was a very good squad that was 2 points from 8. It was just the way they were managed. Ultimately.
Well, you say that, but Kamoli had bought. We'd bought. Okay, so you had Modric, who's the most amazing player. I loved him.
Bale.
You had Bale, who was injured, and no one knew how that was going to work out. But we also did buy that. What's his face from Mexico? Dos Santos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Gomez, who at the time was throwing everything into the goal. And he was.
The octopus.
Gomez
it was either really crap or really good, right?
Yeah.
So he took that and he took it to that point, and we were like, "Wow, we're in the Champions League." And the trick then, and we were that's that. Then the following season, we were up there in the league, and we went up to Man City, and Balotelli stamped on Scott Parker, and they scored that penalty. That window. I mean, Harry wanted Tevez on loan from City. I doubt he got it. And he wanted Gary Cahill. And we ended up with Ryan Nelson and Louis Saha. And the rest, as they say, is history. All right. Pochettino came in. And it's in the book. What was the name of that book?
Brave New World.
Brave New World. So, Brave New World, right? So, Brave New World, they in that book, it says, if you get Champions League by the second season of the new stadium, that's your objective, right? And it's in my most humblest of opinions, is by the time we'd had the second season in the new stadium and we're in the Champions League, ENIC would have sold us then. That was the prime time for ENIC to sell us.
Shit, so, doesn't say in the book. Just to be really clear, it's
my view that was the plan. Okay, so the point is that we've had opportunities at various times, and opportunities when those bigger clubs like Chelsea or City are having their transition seasons, when they're getting rid of managers that don't work. That's when we had a chance to take advantage, and we did in those 4 years. But our recruitment has been awful, and I am really struggling to think that has Wanyama our last best good signing? I mean, that is bad, right?
I think so. Sanchez has had moments.
I'm struggling to think. Surely there must have been someone else since Wanyama. Okay,
not someone good.
ENIC, no, well, that's what I'm saying. But the fact about ENIC is, and I know what the argument is going to come back at me is, ENIC Levy's got his 30% stake in ENIC. It's a private equity model with a long-term investment. At some point they will sell, and it makes Daniel Levy a lot of money. And the fact is that our club, with the AJ fight on the weekend and Slash and Axel coming along whenever they are, right
next year.
And I so want to see a picture of Slash and Axel with Daniel Levy. Please, it would be brilliant.
He'd probably give him some career advice. Like when I was at school, I was struggling with my grades.
When I was learning Fix You by Coldplay and second year guitar, one day I thought I can too be a rock star. Anyway, the point is, ENIC, we could end up in a situation where football may not be the core business at that stadium at some point or another. It could be NFL, it could be concerts a lot. So as far as ENIC are concerned, the ambition is to get us in the Champions League, and that's about it. So that's my view. The argument is always going to be, well, if you don't want ENIC, who else are you going to get in? And I don't hang out with private equity billionaires and things like that. Wouldn't mind. But the fact of the matter is, I don't want them as our owners of the club anymore. And I haven't wanted them as owners for a very long time.
So you'd swap them for other venture capitalists, basically. Delhi, good signing. Yeah, that's a fair point, isn't it? Delhi was a good signing. He's after Wanyama, isn't he?
No, he was before Wanyama.
He wasn't.
Was he before?
No.
Wanyama came at the start of the 16-17 season. Delhi had been at the club. We bought him 18 months previously, and he played at least one season for Spurs.
Well, he's included in the mix. That's fine. And Son was not after Wanyama, was he? Son was before Wanyama.
Son was 2015.
Yeah. I think 2015 was the last good window we had, I think. Yeah.
We signed Toby in that same window, I think.
It's interesting. I feel like the last time we actually went out and bought players that we needed was when the first window when Redknapp took over. And we had this team that was flirting with relegation, and Redknapp took one look and said, you know what, I need a defensive midfielder, so we went and got Palacios for a fair chunk of money as it was back then. And we went and bought Robbie Keane back, right, for a fair chunk of money, and Defoe came back, and all these people that Redknapp, for all of his faults, he knew what made a team, he knew the balance that was required. He may not have been tactically astute, but when it came to picking 11 players on the pitch that could work with each other, Redknapp was great at it. That's why he had the career that he did. That's why it's so frustrating when you see managers and Jose did this last season, who don't seem to understand that you need to have a bit of everything. That Arsenal team, as much as I don't want to talk about them, had a bit of everything yesterday. Their midfield three complemented each other. Thomas was able to sit and kind of be the box-to-box guy. Xhaka was the guy who sat and would pass it around, and Ødegaard could kind of be the creative guy, and the three of them worked well together. Spurs don't have that. We don't look at our midfield options and think, you three could work. And even if we did, we don't play them together. I mean, that's the crazy thing. So I don't know. I feel like if Levy is going to go out and spend the money, we almost have to get worse. Because then you'll think, well, I can't be out of the Premier League. I mean, it's an awful thing to say, but it feels like that's what we're going to do. January, I hope, given the fact that Spurs may well still possibly have a bit more money than most teams, we could still take advantage and go and get some other players. People to replace players like Winks, who we know don't have a future at the club. Doherty can go because he doesn't have a future at the club. Like, there are still moves that can be made. I'm hopeful that Paratici won't look at January and think, oh, I hate this. He's probably thinking, I can't wait. January 1st is the day. We do, but you'd like to think.
Speaking of Paratici and Hitchin, they haven't really been seen on the bench cheerleading.
We've been losing. No.
Really? Who would have thought? Come on.
That, isn't it?
It's PR. I said it at the time. Everyone's going, the passion, it's great, the DNA. It's just PR puffery.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if they have been on the bench. I don't know.
To be fair, after a mobile phone was thrown at the Chelsea bench in our last home game, it's not a surprise they're not allowed down there anymore.
I didn't know that. I did
not know. And the ENIC Out protests, obviously they're up in the security in the stadium, so they probably don't think it's worth risking Paratici and Hitchin's life in the stadium, because obviously all of those protests are obviously going to go into the stadium, aren't they?
What protests?
We haven't seen any yet, but apparently there are protests planned because they're always planned.
Was it like the one at the end of the last season? It's hardly the March of the Thousands of Washington, was it? I mean, if we want to get into this
Trump
now,
rally you're talking about there.
I'm talking history, Martin Luther King, and all that kind of stuff, right?
No,
but we'll get into this now, right? Because I've got to go soon. Sorry.
Oh, you want your say, Dave? I'll tell you what. You go. You take over, sunshine.
No, I'll tell you something, right? And this is what I am going to say, right? I don't want ENIC as the owners of the club, right? I don't, and I've never wanted them to be. I've long, even for the Super League, didn't want them, right? But I tell you what, I do not want to be associated with or anything like that is just some kind of that protest. 200, 300 people turn up end of last season. We'll all have a party when Daniel Levy dies. We're passionate about this. We love our club. It's not worth the life of someone. And I think that's just utter nonsense that people are talking about, threats to Levy's family. We had the Supporters Trust on a podcast on last year, which was a great podcast. And they were talking about the fact that they receive hate mail or hate comments and things like that. They're unpaid volunteers trying to do their best for the supporters and do a great job. So this is the thing that irritates the hell out of me. You guys have sent me excerpts from Twitter and things like that saying that, was it one comment you got, the firm aren't going to like this, you better watch out. What, are you actually threatening physical violence to someone for the expression of an opinion? It's pathetic, actually. So what I'd like to see, and it probably won't be the Supporters Trust because of the position they're in, I'd like to see a credible organisation who come together, organise a coordinated protest against ENIC in a lawful and civil manner. And I know I'm sounding like a middle-aged Daily Mail reader, and I don't want to, right?
Well, we've already established it's the Daily Telegraph, which is possibly even worse than the Daily Mail. But
but I read the Telegraph for the sports more than anything. So that's what I want to see. And I'll give you a little bit of ranting history here, okay? I think podcasts and stuff like this, it's been a natural extension of the fanzine culture that came out in the 80s and 90s, right? You had the Spur magazine that was run by a guy called Stuart Mutler, who was fantastic. It was very funny. You go home, you buy it on the weekend, and then you read it. Jack Harris, well said. Is that my son?
I think it must be.
No one else is going to agree with you, Dave.
Well, right. Anyway, I'll just finish.
How much are you paying him, Dave?
He never agrees with me on anything. Anyway, so all I want to say is this, is that we have a history of protests, okay? So the Spur magazine regularly did things against Scholar because he wanted to get rid of the shelf. In the 90s, we had this Tottenham action group that was run by a guy called Mark Jacobs or something that was against sugar. And now we have this, right? So if we want to get ENIC out, and I'm not getting into we can't find other buyers, or you want coordinated protest, do it in a respectful manner, do it in a coordinated manner, and do it like that. Personally abusing people, threatening people with violence and stuff like that, frankly, and I hope you're not watching this bit, Jack, it's just a load of old bollocks. Sorry, that's my rant.
There you go. I mean, look, whenever we get into ENIC, there are strong views on both sides of the debate. To me, it's always been a bit strange that people would think that Daniel Levy doesn't want the best for the club when it's in his interests to have the best for the club. I just think he's spectacularly bad at running a football club, if I'm being really honest, on the football side of things. I don't think he hates Tottenham or is deliberately failing. I just don't think he's very good at it.
This is it. I think the business model and everything that he's done commercially, he's taken Spurs to another level, and I can see Dave smirking. But I'm not finished, Dave. So you stop the smirk.
No, I'm smirking at my son's comments. Sorry, carry on.
Running a football club, very, very bad. I mean, when was the last good decision he made?
Well, I mean, sacking Jose was a good decision, but the timing was terrible.
Yeah, this is it. So he does a good thing, but he does it. This is what I said in the group chat. We do the wrong things at the wrong time, and we don't do the right things at the right time. Signing players that we need in certain positions at the right time would help this football club, but the management and the hierarchy are completely inept at doing that. Obviously, we hope that Paratici will help with this, and we haven't really seen too much from him to see whether it's going to be a good signing from Levy or not. But his first signing, let's be honest, isn't going great in Nuno. So, and I'm not saying I want Nuno out now. That's never been the case. But if we continue how we are, losing in the manner where we are, getting spanked 3-0 every game, with no fight, no desire, no direction, you can't see that we're improving in any way, shape or form, of course he's going to get sacked. This is Daniel Levy we're talking about. He isn't going to hang about. He sacked Jose 6 days before a cup final, for goodness
There's
sake.
got to be a fall guy. Got to be a fall guy all the time. HG, how long's Nuno got?
Well, I mean, as Shan says, if it continues the way it's going, then probably not very long. I think he's got until at least Christmas. I mean, when was it that AVB got sacked? I think it was about a week before Christmas. I suspect it would be in that area probably if it continues once the Europa League group stages or the Conference League group stage is done. If things are bad, I don't see any reason to do it earlier than that. If the Argentina boys go off to Argentina again, then who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of months. When it's, I just think that like for Nuno to make decisions as bad as we were, because the first half yesterday was the worst first half of football we've seen, first half of football we've seen in a very long time. But you go back a week against Chelsea, the first half of that game worked really well. So like you are kind of like rough with the smooth. Like we didn't score when we were playing well against Chelsea, and it came back to bite us because Chelsea, rejigged things, and then they got a couple of lucky goals, and the game was over. Yesterday was bad. Palace, you could sit there and say, yeah, okay, we played very defensive, but Romero and Lo Celso and all the others were off in Croatia because they couldn't play, and maybe the options weren't as obvious. I mean, like you could have played Dombele probably in that game, and he chose not to. But I just think that hopefully at some point, like yesterday was bad because pretty much everyone was fit, and he chose to do what he did. That is not a good sign. You can make excuses for the other games, but yesterday, the only one out I think I was out was Bergwijn, and Sessegnon doesn't really count. So what have you got left? Next game's Villa. He's pretty much got a full squad to choose from, and he needs to figure out what will work. And Villa have played the same way for 2.5 years since Dean Smith took over. So even though Grealish is gone, they're not changing what they do. They know what they want to do, and we have to figure out, not only because we have to learn ourselves and we have to figure out what we want to do, but we have to try and stop them. And that I think is the issue. Like Nuno might be focusing on being defensive first while he teaches them how to attack, but I don't think it's going to happen with a flat back four. None of us do, really. We all sit here and say 3 centre backs are the way to go. It's nervy, but I want Nuno to get at least until Christmas, even if things are bad. But like if the fans get behind it, if we do lose the next 3 games, as Shan said, then everyone will want him gone. Everyone, a lot of fans will want him gone, and Levy will feel the pressure.
I mean, he's already 4-1 to get sacked. He's the next manager on the bookies odds to get sacked already.
I mean, because
he's overtaken Arteta.
The bookies thing to a point is, but A, they want you to bet, so they want to make it attractive. B, they put stories out there to make it seem like he's going to, right? So if I'm Sky, I want people to bet. I'm going to throw a story out about how Nuno's done this. I've seen all this thing today about, this capitulation yesterday was because of the last 4 or 5 years. Like, had you known that, you'd have written it 6 months ago, right? It's very much hindsight speaking. So, like, when it comes to betting odds, I don't really take much notice of it because they've all got their own motives to it. The point is, from Spurs' perspective, we have to look when we play Villa at home, 60,000 people in the stadium. The Spurs fans don't expect us to go out there and win 3-0. I would hope they don't, because Villa are a decent side. But we have to make it look like that we've got the energy that you guys were talking about earlier, that we have a game plan that we're sticking to, and that we create stuff. If we create chances, the fan will get behind them, confidence will be there, and away we go. But if it's defensive, more turgid football, then the fans will be upset because they've paid 65 quid for the privilege, and no one's going to be happy, and it becomes a spiral, a negative spiral for everyone.
He's the reigning manager of the month, and we're talking about sacking him. Dave, how long? I'll come back to you, Shan. I will come back to you. How long's Nuno got?
Well, I mean, look, as I've said, if we get rid of him, who else are we going to get in? Honestly, there's no one. There's no one available. There really isn't. So I think that I'm kind of hoping this is going to be a little bit like the Tim Vickery was excellent last week, and he talked about the 92-93 season where Gaza and Lineker had gone, and we got spanked.
You loved it because he was referring things you know lots about in the past.
What I'm trying to say here is that season we got spanked by Leeds 5-0. It was HG's first season, and then we got Barnby out of nowhere in January came into the team, and Anderton came back from a hernia, and we had a good cup run. So I still think these things can be turned around, right? But Nuno has got to play 3 centre-backs. Romero was part of a middle 3 at Atlanta, and that's where he got the player of the season, defender of the year. He has to play 3 at the back, and our wing-backs have to play, our full-backs are more suited to playing in a wing-back system. They're better going forward than defending. And then in relation to the recruitment over the summer, I said we needed a second striker, we didn't get it, and we needed a midfield player who can do something different. So I think it can turn around. But what worries me about this is that we've gone from one system to playing 3 holding midfield players against Palace away to really going for it against Chelsea, to that abomination of a formation on the weekend. He's got to be consistent. He's got to say, this is how I'm going to play, and then keep to it. But it's got to be 3 at the back. So I'd give him time, for sure. But as I said, we get rid of him, who else are we going to get in? You might as well write off the season.
Shan, what words of encouragement do you think Daniel Levy and Paratici are giving Nuno right now?
So I reckon they've called Nuno into his office. He's sat him down and he's gone, look, Nuno, when I was in a school, I was really struggling with maths. But now I'm a multimillionaire businessman and it didn't matter. And I think that'll be Daniel Levy's words of encouragement. Look, I don't think Daniel Levy can say anything to anyone to encourage them to do anything better. Just going to pick out this comment, if I can find it here. If this is true, then that is an absolute joke. 3 at the back with wing backs is our best chances of being successful as a football team this season. And if Daniel Levy and Paratici are against that, then our problems with them are much, much bigger than we originally thought. I don't think that's true. I think what I've seen is that Paratici didn't want Fonseca because he wanted a more defensively sound brand of football, which goes completely against what Levy promised us at the end of last season. But yeah, I think if he's going to have any chance of staying at Spurs, he needs to change his formation. He needs to pick the right players in the right positions against the right teams. It's all well and good us playing free DMs against Palace, but then you do what we did against Arsenal. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He needs to start making better decisions, and I think he's made the same mistake 3 matches in a row. And I think it would be telling for us if we see the same against Villa.
The best 45 minutes we've seen all season was the first 45 against Chelsea, right? So if he is going to go 4 at the back, then do the same 11 that started that game. I think Romero started that game next to Dyer. Sanchez wasn't, came on as a sub. I think Lo Celso and Ndombele were both in the starting 11 that day, and they both went off when we were 2-0 down. When we needed a goal, we took off the creative players. There's some nonsense decisions there, but I think that 45 minutes was the most hope that we've had this season. So we need to if we're not going to go 3 at the back, that's where we need to go. We need ball players in midfield. We need people who are capable of holding on to the ball. That's it. Now, I don't agree with the idea that game when we had, like Kane was dropping to the left and Son was the focal point. Sod that, right? But the idea in midfield, to me, that's the biggest issue. If the midfield isn't set up right, then you have to go 3 at the back. But if the midfield is set up right, you can get away with 4 because hopefully you're dominating the ball. You're not worrying about defending so much because you have it and the other team can't get it off you. And you look at Winks, can't keep the ball. So you need, even Højbjerg and Skip, like Højbjerg and Skip are decent, but they're not. They don't want to hold the ball under pressure, right? They'll pass it off just like Winks does. Ndombele and Lo Celso have something else, and they need to be in that. If we're going to go forward in midfield, one of those two, but probably both, need to play against Villa.
I agree. I don't know where Caller's gone. He's sort of just disappeared. I reckon
Probably
he's
gone for
getting
a
a
piss.
top up. Or that.
There is one thing. This is from John Joe. Dave, do you have a mic to show?
No.
This is my mic. There you go.
I've
Right,
got no
nice
mic.
Ruder.
I've got that. There you go.
Yeah, perfect. You probably sound better than I do, even if you're miles and miles away. But yeah, so we do all have mics, but Caller likes to show his because he's a bit of a show off. It's true.
HG, mine is quite on show as well, but it's more because if it's over here, it don't pick up anything.
But you advertised that you had this new mic, right? There's a difference. You've got to show people now. Yeah, it's crazy because even before Villa, we've got the game against Mura, right? And that's Thursday night, the Conference League game. Like, what are we going to see on Thursday night? What do you expect, Dave?
What do I expect? I expect against Mura that he's going to rotate the squad because he needs to get a result against Villa. Mura, he'd be expected to win at home. So I think he'll still play the second string team. I think Kill will get a start. And I think that Scarlett will get a start as well. So I think he'll rotate and we should get 3 points out of that and off we go. And that's where we are. But the Villa game, that's a massive game. And I think it's going to be a difficult game because they're looking.
It's make or break, I think. 100%.
I wouldn't go. I don't agree with that.
I think if we lose 3-0 in the manner that we've lost the last 3 games, four games, 12 goals conceded. Then he's on a slippery slope. I don't think he'll get sacked after the Villa game. Mm-hmm. But if we lose that game, how we've lost it, if we lose it 1-0 and we're fighting and we're trying, I think that's a bit different. But if we lose it how we've lost these last 3 games, where it's a complete and utter capitulation in one half of football, well, you could even argue in less than a half of football in 25-30 minutes, then he's on a very slippery slope. And you think, look at the games we've got coming up. Newcastle away. They're our bogey team. They like to beat us. You've got West Ham away. We ain't winning there. Manchester United at home.
Yeah, they're not easy. I think the biggest thing is any kind of result, even if it's a draw against Villa, will give you some breathing room, right? We'd love to win. But yeah, if you lose that game, it's an international break. So you've got 2 weeks of bullshit journalists writing shit-stirring stories to make suddenly the first game back, which is Newcastle away, even more important. I don't know if the Newcastle game is on TV. I doubt it because, why would anyone want to watch that? But that's the idea. Like to me, I want to avoid this idea that the stone just gathers pace, right? We need to get a result. We need to get a victory. Villa, yes, they look good. Yes, Leon Bailey's come in and scored a few goals. They seem to have bought quite well. They're playing their new players. We aren't. That's a massive problem for me. Like Brian, you could understand maybe needing a bit of time, but I think he's shown in his game so far that he needs to be part of it. He needs to be more involved with that first 11, with the League 11. He's not started in the league yet. Romero's only started the 1 game in the league. It's kind of weird to think that the 3 wins that we got were all before the end of the window. It's madness when you think of it like that. Like Royal wasn't even a Spurs player. He needs to start playing games, whether it's Conference League or Premier League or whatever. But if you go 3 at the back, you give Royal a bit of a buffer. You say to him, you know what? Even if you get things wrong, there's going to be someone covering behind you. You can't expect that from midfielders because they haven't done it this season. I don't want to see Højbjerg covering the fullback if the fullback bombs forward. I want to see him in the middle of the park winning the ball there. I would rather have a third centre-back, the right-sided centre-back, covering if Royal loses the ball. It's tough for a wing-back to get up and be at both ends of the pitch, but that's what we need to be doing.
Just had a super chat in from Paul. Paul Muir, shout out, mate. Massive shout out. Is it worth bringing Sarr from Metz early in Jan? If that's a possibility, of course. I think I know the answer for that.
Tell us, caller. I want to hear your view.
Yes, absolutely. We're short in midfield. We need good players. He looks like a very good player from everything I've read. Yeah, why wouldn't you? It would make absolutely perfect sense to me. Shan, what's your view?
Well, there is one big problem with regard to bringing Sarr back from Metz in January, and that's the fact that we bought him on the premise that they'd have him back for the season to continue his development, and that is why we got him as cheap as we did. I don't see him coming back in January. I don't even think we'd try to bring him back in January because we signed him on that basis, which the club have only got themselves to blame. I think if we were going to do that, we still needed, whether it be on loan or to get another midfielder in, we needed something else in that midfield. And that is one of the big mistakes, and we're paying for it now. Same as no backup striker, same as no right winger. These things that we all knew we needed to rectify in the window and didn't are coming back to bite us on the arse now. But to be fair, the new signings that we do have aren't getting played in the first 11 in the Premier League, so
coming on to
made
that.
a difference.
Coming on to that. HG, your view?
Yeah, it's exactly like Skip's situation last year. I was all about having Skip come in January because I felt we needed him for our own season. There's no difference here. Like if Sarr is the wonder kid that everyone seems to agree he is, he seems to have played well for Metz this season, even though they're towards the bottom of the French league. Do I want minutes going to Harry Winks? No, simply. So even if he doesn't play as often, he won't get those regular minutes that he's been getting in France. Like if he spends the rest of the season in France, then what happens? He comes in June and then takes 6 months to get used to the Premier League. Like you're just prolonging it even further. We need him in January. We should get him back in January if we can, obviously. And if we have to pay a bit more money to Metz for it to happen, then fine, we do that. We need to move on from players that we already know aren't the future of Spurs. That is Lucas to me, that is Doherty, that is Winks, players that really, they're not going to be here past the next 2-3 years. We talked about that, that 16-17 team, a lot of them have played together for a very long time, 2 or 3 seasons at the club before we hit those heights. We need it. Like if we want to hit those heights soon, the sooner we start that, the better. And that means bringing him back in January.
Couldn't agree more, really. And Dave?
Okay, so I'm going to have to go. So this is my last answer, but hello to Tom in the living room as well. So Sarr, I mean, it's interesting that Caller says we should get him back in January. When I floated getting Skip back from Norwich, you said, no, we shouldn't do that. So what's the difference?
I didn't.
You did. It's on the podcast. Yes, it is.
What's on the podcast, I think you'll find, if you listen correctly, is I doubt it's very possible for us to pull him back because of the agreement that we will have signed, not whether we should or not. It's a different story, and it's the same with Sarr. Yes, ideally, we'd love him back.
Okay. So with Sarr, I think that if everyone's expecting to get an 18-year-old kid from the French League division to come back in and sort out all our problems, then that's just ridiculous because he's 18 years old. We've got an absolute paucity in that midfield. We should have fixed it. We should have bought another midfield player. We didn't. Okay. I agree from HG's point of view, the point about bringing him back in and then kind of integrate him into the squad. It's better to do it now rather than him in France for another 6 months. But at the same time, if you get him back in now, he's not going to fix everything. He's only 18 years old. So I don't
want him to fix everything. I just think that he needs to be with us.
But I think the questioning is, well, let's get him back in because we signed him because we were in the shit now. So let's get him in and try and fix it. That's not going to work at all. So I think that we've got bigger problems than that. Coutinho in January. No, not Coutinho in January. He's well past it. And I've got to go. It's great seeing you guys again. And thanks for everyone's comments. So as is tradition, I'm going to finish with come on you Spurs and then you boot me out halfway. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Come on you.
Did you try and do it at the same time? Don't press my buttons, Shan. Don't press my buttons. You might have the mic, but you can't be the caller. Listen, I think I would like to speak on behalf of the Cheese Room that say, Dave, thanks for coming back on the show. You added tons of value tonight, and we'll see you again soon. What can we expect on Thursday then, HG? We'll talk about the weekend on the Friday show, but what can we expect Thursday?
Well, as a Spurs fan, we should expect disappointment, right? That helps you prepare for it. Mura are a decent side, but Vitesse went there and won. We should be beating them. Honestly, I want it to be like the Passos game. I think the Passos game, we played with some movement in midfield. We created chances. We won the game comfortably in the end. I don't think it was our best 11 that played that game, although a lot of them came in because we'd lost the first leg. I'd like to see something like that. I mean, expectations are a weird thing because, yeah, like as a Spurs fan, we should have learned by now to never have expectations. But I want to see a better version of Spurs, and the Arsenal game was such a low bar that I think we definitely will.
Shan?
I want to counter that with HG.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we go and beat Mira like we did Passos if we shouldn't be going to teams like Palace and beating them?
Do you not see the difference between Mura and Palace and Wolves?
I'm just saying, if we're going to have that,
We're at home.
that mentality, we should. But that's not the point. We should be going to every game with the intention of winning.
Yeah, no, but that's a different subject. Like with the intention of winning, yes. Expecting to win, no. Right? As a Spurs fan, I don't expect Spurs to win any game because I've learned that is a dangerous thing to do. I might know on paper that we should, but I don't expect it because we have to go out and do it. You have to go out and show that you are good enough to win that game. We did it against Passos, so it worked out. But I don't expect to go to Palace. I don't expect to go anywhere. The Carling Cup game at Burnley, I don't expect Spurs to go there and do it. I know that we can. Perhaps we should, but I don't expect it. It is massively dangerous to think that Spurs, even with the revenue that we have, are somehow guaranteed to go to these places and get 3 points. You have to go out there and do it. And as we've seen, these clubs are massively motivated to put one over us because, stupidly maybe, they see us as a scalp. So it's just like Mura, I think, to many of those players are going to be thinking, we've got nothing to lose on Thursday night. We're in this massive stadium. We've probably never played in a stadium this size before. They might be overawed. They might think, F it, we don't care. We'll just give it a go. But whatever happens, it should hopefully mean that Spurs have the space to go out there and score the goals we need. I want Scarlett to play. I'm a bit worried that Scarlett's of that level, frankly, but this is the game where he gets to play. You don't keep him around as a backup and then give him no chances. That would have been idiotic. We should have kept Parrott around if we were going to do that. But I just think that as far as it goes, the Conference League game, this is the easiest game in the group on paper. And so we have to kind of treat it like that a little bit when it comes to team selection. But the players that are playing that game have to go out there and say, no, I want to prove a point to the manager that we can work together, that we are good enough to play in the next game, that we want to be in that Villa team. Because let's face it, no one in the team that played Arsenal yesterday is guaranteed to play the next week. Maybe Reguilon, but that's about
Harry
it.
Kane.
And wait, is he guaranteed?
Yeah.
Like if he plays,
going to drop him, is he?
Well, I don't think he should. But the point is, like, Højbjerg is another one. If you base it on what he did against Arsenal, there's no guarantee there. I don't think anyone against Arsenal should be guaranteed a spot. But I think there's at least 6 or 7 spots that are available to anyone who wants it. And Nuno might think, if I am just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, here's another chance to do it. So I want the Spurs team, whoever it is against Mura, to go out there and say, I am good enough, not just to do a Lamella and prove I'm good enough in Europe, but nothing else, but to go out there and say, look what I'm doing here. Now give me a chance to go and show it in the Premier League. Let's put a team together that functions, that has balance, that has width, that knows what it wants to do. And then if you do that against Mura, as easy on paper as they might be, you will have then hopefully more confidence to go and do it against Villa at the weekend.
Why is it? This is to both of you, but I'm going to go Shan first. Why is it that Nuno seems so reluctant to play our transfer window signings in the Premier League? So, Romero, surely, you play your very expensive Rolls Royce of a defender in matches in the Premier League, especially in the North London derby.
Well, this is what doesn't make sense.
Sorry, it's been touched on with Hill as well,
Yeah, this is what doesn't make sense. Romero was one of our best players against Chelsea. Even though we conceded 3 goals, he wasn't at fault for them. Maybe the third, but that was unfortunate at that point. But the first 2, he definitely wasn't at fault. So why isn't he getting into that game against Arsenal? Why isn't he getting into that team? It doesn't make any sense. We go out and spend 42 million or 47 million plus add-ons on a defender who was the best defender in his respective league, to just not play him.
And the weird thing is, like, I think we all know that Romero in Italy was good in a 3. I was quite surprised to see him start against Chelsea because he was in a 2. I was quite surprised that Sanchez missed out, considering how he'd started the season next to Dyer. The game against Palace, Romero wasn't available. So he's only really been available for 2 games for Spurs. And he played one of them and didn't play the next. Romero, after what we saw, will come in. Surely will come in Thursday night and probably will keep his place for Sunday. I hope so. People like Joe Rodon, I mean, it's well known that I don't particularly rate him, but he's not had any minutes really of any significance. And when you look at what's going on around him, in a back 3, it might suit him. It might suit him more. It might suit the club more. So I just, with Brian, considering that we've got Lucas and Bergwijn and Son, right? Those 3 of them were probably always ahead of Brian going into the season. I can kind of understand that. But now that, certainly Bergwijn's still out, Lucas came back straight into the team, which I didn't really agree with. That first half against Chelsea, why not try and do that again? Right? We did well against Chelsea in that first half. Why did we not do that against Arsenal? Why not do that against Villa? Like, we are not good enough to go out there and just say, we're going to play this way and we're going to beat teams by doing what we do, because we don't have a system. We don't have a plan. We need to just somehow find a way to get balance and our better players on the pitch. And to me, I think it's quite obvious who our better players are. That does mean Dombele. That does mean Højbjerg. It doesn't mean Dele right now. Dele shouldn't start. It means Kane. It means Son. It means Romero. Brian might be one to come in. You look at the right back. Who's it going to be, Romero or Tanganga? Well, we've paid money for Royal, so Royal. Let's get Royal in the team, right? Like, if we're going to do something with these players that we've bought, let's get them going. Like, Arsenal started 3 of their summer signings at the weekend. Okay, Odegaard played there last year, so he's not completely new. But Tomiyasu came in, Ben White came in, spent a lot of money on those players, and they started in, again, one of their biggest games of the season.
Yeah.
Spurs aren't well.
Yeah, Rams, there you go. Spurs aren't good enough to say, yeah, we've brought these players in, but you can spend some time on the bench because our team really works. Our team doesn't work. So let's get those players in.
Shan, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to add to that really, but to sign, 5 players?
5
Obviously,
players.
Galini, I understand. He was never going to get straight into the first 11. Obviously, he can challenge Hugo for his space, but he was never bought to come straight into the first 11. He's one for next season. Hill, I think, off the back of his recent performances, especially against Wolves in the Cup, deserved to be in that 11. Anyone with eyes could see that he should have started that game, and he made the difference when he came on. If he doesn't start against Villa, there's something very, very wrong. Obviously, Sarr is in France, so he's pretty much ruled out, and I think Emerson will start at right back now. He didn't start at Wolves, did he? He weren't in the Wolves.
I can't remember, to be honest.
Who's this?
Tanganga.
Emerson.
Tanganga played that game because he wasn't at the club yet. He hadn't signed.
Wolves last week in the Cup. I'm sure Tanganga played at right back.
Tanganga did play at right back.
Yeah, and then he played again at the weekend, which I thought, if Tanganga's playing the Cup game, then Emerson will be at right back for the weekend, but obviously not. So if we weren't playing Emerson at the weekend, we should have played him in the Cup game. This is what doesn't make any sense. You don't sign players and not play them. The only way they're going to get better and start to fit into the system that you want to play is by playing them in that. That's the only way. And I don't think any of them have done anything to not deserve to be in the squad. No. They need to play themselves into some kind of form. They need to play them they need to learn their teammates. It's really frustrating. Really frustrating. Like, to not even have Romero on the pitch against Arsenal when he played well against Chelsea. He didn't deserve to be dropped. This is what's really frustrating.
Well, let's hope he rings the changes and we get a result on Thursday night, and more importantly, we get a result at the weekend. But we'll be back with you come Friday, 9 p.m. To preview the weekend's football. I'll be there, probably not in my seat as per usual, but I will be in the stadium. Lovely stuff. I just want to thank yourself, Shan, for spending the evening with us. Thank you once again with your big mic.
I mean, it is pretty big, isn't it? But at least people can't hear me breathing to myself anymore, which is a very good thing because it used to really wind me up. All I could hear was.
It's much more natural.
It is.
Like Vader. Yeah.
I don't feel like I've got something stuck to my face, which is nice. But yeah, it's great to be here. And yeah, I'll probably be in your seat again when let's be honest.
Let's face facts. That's probably what's going to happen. HG, great to catch up with you, mate. You all right?
Yeah, some bug just flew past my face. It's got a bit of an Indian summer here, so yeah, the bugs are still around. But
it's always warm there, isn't it? It's always warm.
In the summer, yes. In winter, no. But,
thanks for 170 people, even watching now. So we appreciate you watching. Come back Friday, 9 p.m. We'll have a great show for you, and let's try and have some optimism. I know we've been shit lately. It's got to get better, surely. In the meantime, as ever, come on, you Spurs.
Come on.